My child, I want you to hear me out loud, right away. My opinion of you hasn't altered, despite the way they treated you. There have been times when your heart has been faithful. You had good intentions. You had an open spirit. However, you were disregarded. Despite your best efforts, nothing was detected. The truth you spoke was disregarded. They took your offer of loyalty for granted. There was silence when you brought serenity. And somewhere along the line, despite your perseverance, you started to question whether you were as important as you believed. I'm telling you now, though, that you were never invisible to me. In heaven, you were never rejected. You were purposefully, permanently, and irrevocably chosen. You've experienced more than most people realize. They had a peek at your outside world, but they never witnessed the price you paid to continue walking. When you were tired, you served. While privately wishing someone would speak life into you, you supported others. Even when your voice was muffled and your presence was ignored, you showed up. I saw it all when your name wasn't on the list. Not only did I witness it, but I also documented it. I honor the loyalty that others forget, not for the purpose of retaliation or publicity. I am going to elevate what this world has overlooked. I'm going to utilize what they failed to notice, not in the far future either. The journey's recognition now starts. Allow me to return you for insight, not for pain. You weren't seeking attention, which is why the stillness was so painful. You wanted to be acknowledged. Worship was not what you were requesting. All you wanted was to be noticed. That's not a sign of weakness. It's not pride. I made you with that need in order to bring you back to me, the one who sees everything, not so that others could satisfy it. I never meant for you to base who you are on approval from others. I let some doors remain closed for that reason. I let the stage be delayed because of this. For this reason I said, not yet. Not to hurt you, but to mend what would have fallen apart under the strain of performance when you were prepared to run. We don't forget you. It is more than just a sentence. Heaven has sealed that truth. I've seen you develop in the background. Love without a following, thus without a cheer. And that type of life is never wasted. I want you to know that. It was at the places where you were shunned by others that I became more intimate with you. I can now trust you with influence that won't break your spirit, because you know how to serve in obscurity. I can put you in a position where everyone will hear you, and you won't adjust your tone to appease everyone. Additionally, since you've already survived without approval, you won't be tempted by it. They didn't pick you, so you're not broken. They didn't believe in you, but it doesn't mean you're not eligible. I saved what men had overlooked. To allow your roots to get deeply ingrained, I prevented you from being validated too soon. Therefore, superficial validation would not be the foundation of your identity. I'm calling you out now. You've been prepared in my eyes, not because you've arrived in others. I want to talk about the burden you've carried, the sense that your time has somehow been wasted, that your obedience hasn't resulted in what you hoped for, and that your consistency has been in vain. It hasn't. Heaven and earth are not the same. Visibility isn't how I determine worth. I don't use platforms to gauge intent. I gauge your loyalty, the state of your heart, the sincerity of your intentions, and your readiness to follow me, even if it means losing everything and receiving no assurances. The time is running out, which is why I am releasing this word now. Your super thanks is more than just a gift. It is a declaration that you trust in my provision and that you will help spread my word to those who are lost and searching. This is not merely a consoling message, it's a summons. I'm not merely validating your history, I'm turning on your next. What I have already decided in heaven is being announced in the Spirit. It's time for you to walk with authority instead of regret. The invisibility season is coming to an end. The time for revelation has arrived. We don't forget you. They're positioning you. You're not overlooked. They're keeping you safe. Additionally, the path I had you follow, one that was characterized by concealment, miscommunication, and delay, was not a form of punishment. It was preparation. The results of your silence will soon be visible. Indeed, the impending breakthrough will feel like more than just advancement. It will feel just. Not the sort that destroys others, but the kind that honors what was sowed in silence, the kind that returns what was taken. You'll be astounded by how well the timing works, not by how fast things change. I cleared out everything to make way for what I'm going to put in. Everyone who left made room for people who share your goals. Every setback made it plain that I couldn't continue with what I'm about to do. Furthermore, you aren't being given more authority to prove anything to people who disregarded you. You're not getting credit for proving that you were correct. I made the proper decision in selecting you, and that will be sufficient to place you. You will be able to handle the weight of the doors I will open next because your foundation is the approbation of heaven. Thus, rise from within, not with arrogance, but with tranquility. You are more than just someone who survived. You were chosen for a heavenly mission, more than recognition, more than recompense. And heaven is announcing what earth attempted to overlook at the appropriate moment. We never forgot you. They're getting you ready. I want you to fully comprehend things. I have witnessed every instance in which your presence was disregarded, your contribution was undervalued, and your voice was not given a chance to be heard. I witnessed the precise times you were wise enough to remain silent. I also noticed that you were so tired that you remained silent. I never mistook the two. I was there when you had to make the tough decision to bless someone who ignored you. I witnessed the evenings when, despite your pain, you fought in prayer, not for yourself, but for others. I also didn't take any of that for granted. Others may have determined your worth based on attention, response, or acclaim, but I have never done so. I take internal measurements. I can see how consistently you say yes, how deeply you care, and how much your heart weighs. I am aware of how much of yourself you have given to causes that were unable to bear the expense. And I stayed, even though others could have left without a word. I made a recording. I recalled. You've never had to do anything to get my attention. I never needed love or loudness from you. To demonstrate your importance, I never needed to see your name on a list or a screen. When the rooms were frigid, I was with you. When there was no acknowledgement, when your assistance went unnoticed. I have never abandoned you, not once. As well as the tears you secretly cried, they never got lost. I treasure them. Each one bears a fragment of a heart that refuses to harden. Not because I like your suffering, but because that is who you are. The person who remains sensitive despite being misinterpreted. Despite your lack of feelings for me, you continue to choose me, the one who stays when everything within you tells you to leave. It's not a sign of weakness. Spiritual strength is that. Maturity is that. Let me share my thoughts about you with you. Even when no one cheers you on, you remain dependable. Even if it means losing your influence, you are honest. Even when your heart is weary, you have compassion. Even when everything around you changes, you remain solid. Even when fear tries to silence you, you remain brave. Even when misinterpreted, your intentions remain pure. I find you lovely because of who you are, not because of what you create when nobody is around. This isn't a compliment. I'm here to remind you of something you've almost forgotten. You have been invisible, not because you were undeserving, but because I was teaching you to be yourself without the need for continual confirmation from others. Where no one cheered, you were growing, deepening in places only heaven could see, maturing where no one looked. You haven't fallen behind, I'm telling you now. You have been evolving. You have sensed the strain because of this. Because even if your soul still remembers what it was like to be neglected, your spirit is aware that something is changing. You've had trouble balancing the role you currently hold with the promise I made to you. God, you've silently asked me, when will my time come? And while the inquiry was painful, it was also pure. Being famous wasn't what you asked for. You requested fulfillment. You wanted to know if what I said was still true. And now I'm responding to you. Indeed, I did. Indeed, I still do. Indeed, the moment is approaching. However, I need you to stand for something bigger than calling before I can move you forward. You must stand in identification for me, not the person you pretend to be, but the person you truly are to me. It's not the version that receives accolades, the silent praying version, the one that relies in the unknown, the one that forgives in suffering, and the one that continues to move even when you want to sit down. That's the version I'm promoting. Therefore, I'm inviting you to get closer and return to the silence where your spirit recalls what the outside world tries to make you forget, rather than trying harder. I want to bring back your voice, your rhythm, and your viewpoint. I want to bring you into communion and out of defense mode. Don't wait to be rejected. Stop overanalyzing every space. No more reducing yourself to be not too much. I purposefully created you. I molded you to have an impact. And I referred to the very aspects of you that others found difficult to deal with as sacred. To be selected, you don't have to change. You already are. I only hope you don't forget it. Let me clarify your movement for you. Before you speak, let me speak. Before you move, let me take the lead. If I had to, I would remind you again and again that what the earth overlooked was recorded by heaven. I saved what others ignored. Their judgments are too dissimilar. It's precisely right, I see. You are not excluded from any of my plans. You're not running late. You don't lack anything. You're not forgotten. You're in position. You've been grounded. No one is able to stop you from rising. It's because of who sent you, not who saw you. Join me in a seat. Don't bring a list of things to do. Arrive with an open mind. Allow me to restore your clarity through love. Allow me to remove the traces of rejection. Allow me to relieve you of the weight of always proving your worth. To be valuable, you don't have to be productive. To be called, you don't have to be praised. I can send you even if they can't see you. Heaven has always chosen you, even when earth ignored you. And from now on, that reality will be sufficient to keep you moving forward. I want to return now that your identity has been confirmed. Your heart has started to come alive again, and my voice has replaced the stillness you held for so long. To shed light on the areas where your suffering clouded your judgment, not to reopen past wounds. because you've been viewing some situations through the prism of injustice and rejection for far too long. Additionally, what you went through was unpleasant and real. I want to demonstrate to you the extent of what was going on behind the scenes. Your suffering wasn't evidence that I abandoned you. It wasn't retribution for your wrongdoing. It was a step in the process that I permitted, not to harm you, but to instill in you a sense of grandeur that could never be formed by experiences at a surface level. I witnessed your loneliness and the pain you felt when you gave your all and got no response. I saw you make an effort to continue being there for individuals who were unaware of the sacrifices you were making. I witnessed the depth of the pain when your name was left out, your efforts went unnoticed, your allegiance was not returned. I also didn't look away. In those times, I wasn't aloof. There I was. Yes, it is silent, but it is also active, near, present, and purposeful. It is not ignoring your suffering, but rather working within it to draw out something timeless. You were never left behind. You were being molded. You have to realize that suffering is not sacred in and of itself. But when I give up pain, it becomes sacred. It turns into the foundation upon which compassion, perseverance, and humility are built. And you gave it to me. You brought it to me despite your frustration, your questioning, and your temptation to shut down and stop talking altogether. You gave me more to work with each time you chose not to harden, so I respected that. I poured oil on your heart each time you showed forgiveness. I saved it up as seed every time you served covertly. I marked you authoritatively each time you stood in the tension. Even if you didn't realize it at the time, your suffering served as a platform for spiritual weight rather than performance. You've experienced the type of internal trauma that alters one's self-perception. We had to go through this together because of this, because you would have centered your identity on approbation, false affirmation, and survival if you had entered the spotlight before the healing process started. And the weight of my calling cannot be supported by those things. I did, therefore, consent to the pruning. Yes, I did let the disappointment get to me. Yes, I did let them leave. You were too valuable to allow to go unhealed, not because you weren't deserving. In reality, what felt like abandonment was me creating room for change. I had the power to prevent the pain, but I wanted to make something more in-depth. Wholeness was what I sought. I understand how it felt to be forgotten. You once said, "God, if you see me, why does it feel like nothing changes?" I remember that day. I paid attention to that cry. After receiving it, I relocated. You needed it, but not in the way you had anticipated. I began eliminating erroneous dependencies. I started battling the idols you had created without realizing it. I allowed the quiet to last long enough for your ears to focus on my voice rather than the sounds of the outside world. There was no punishment for you. They were purifying you. I've been questioned why certain relationships that seemed so great ended so suddenly, why some doors slammed shut after opening, why seemingly divine opportunities abruptly vanished. And here is my response. Not all attractive things end in death. What you couldn't see, I saw. I witnessed the long-term costs, the covert concessions, and the ulterior intentions. You requested that I keep you in my will, so I stepped in. And occasionally, my will required removing you from the thing to which your heart was attached. That was painful, but you were also spared. You weren't even the cause of all the suffering you went through. It had to do with what I wished to construct via you. People will need your scars to feel secure when they arrive. They won't be searching for someone with a flawless journey. They will be searching for someone who has maintained their tenderness while walking through flames. That is what you currently carry: depth, authenticity, and comprehension. You've been through enough to enter a room with composure and remain silent. Authority is that, and I was creating that out of your suffering. I thus want you to view everything differently as I start to mend what was damaged, and I want you to bless the time that felt like a loss. Nothing was wasted, and I want you to look back and see that I was laying a foundation beneath you, even when it seemed like you were barely getting by. Because each silent yes turned into a seed, and all the seeds are about to bear fruit. The sum you paid is currently being recouped. You are not a victim of the incident that occurred. You serve as a conduit for my actions. You were not disqualified by the denial. It made you eligible. You weren't delayed by the quiet. It made you more profound. You weren't broken by the sorrow. You were baptized in perseverance. And now that you've had that oil, you're prepared to enter places you didn't think you were worthy of, nor with conceit, nor with resentment, but with calm might, since you are now aware of who you are. I made it public, not because they confirmed it. I've taken you this far for that reason. I'm speaking so clearly now because of this, because the day of salvation has arrived, and I'm redeeming your history as well as your future. The very things that used to seem like detours will turn out to be evidence that I was always guiding your course. You won't simply recover, you'll aid in the recovery of others. You won't simply get up. Along with you, you will lift others. You won't merely talk. My heart will be with you in every word. I'm not requesting that you ignore the suffering. Now that you see your suffering wasn't arbitrary, I'm requesting your permission to exploit it. That your silence wasn't a punishment, and that your rejection didn't represent your value. I'm ready to share what I've been working on behind the scenes, because I have been constructing things around you in addition to mending you. Things you haven't seen yet, because they were still being built. Real things. Wonderful things. I'm going to start gently, deliberately, and unquestionably lowering the veil as you start to walk, healed, whole, and rooted in your identity. I'll start showing you what I've been developing in the areas where you believed nothing was occurring. Since nothing changed over time, you believed that the promises I made to you had been forgotten. You stopped praying over some of the things I spoke to you because they seemed so disconnected from reality. I never changed my mind. There are dreams I put in your soul that you buried, not because you gave up, but because the agony of waiting seemed too great to bear. I never forgot what I said. What you believe to have been buried is still alive, active, and scheduled for completion. And there will be clear indications that what I said was more than just a supportive remark throughout the season you're entering now. It was an announcement of fate. You'll start to feel movement, not rushes of emotion, but spiritual momentum. People will begin to reappear in your life, not to drag you backward, but because I have now cultivated you and them for divine appointment. Discussions will be important. Environments will feel different. Opportunities will start to come your way because you've been ready to carry them, not because you're chasing them. You'll end up in rooms that you didn't request access to. You will hear doors that you have never knocked on opening, and I want you to know that this isn't a coincidence in any of those situations. I am this person. Observe the trends. I use more than just music and sermons to communicate. I communicate through repetition, Tiny affirmations, recurring phrases, or someone expressing something they were unaware you were praying for. It's not a fluke. These are indicators. I'll start raising your awareness so you can move with confidence rather than overanalyzing everything. I'm going to draw your attention to particular verses, introduce you to particular individuals, and rekindle concepts you previously believed were vanished. Adhere to them. Follow instructions. Make the move. I'll verify it while you're moving. Disruption will be one of the indicators. Every shift won't be seamless. You'll be surprised by some of what I take out. People may separate for no apparent cause. Plans that you thought would work out can start to fail. Do not panic. These are indicators as well. I'm not going to punish you. I'm honing your course. I'm making room. I'm defending the pure. Now, I'm letting go of things to make room for what I'm bringing that will last. Trust that it wasn't intended to bear the burden of your next if it departs. Since it won't all happen at once, let's discuss the fulfillment itself. I move in phases, layers, and graceful patterns. However, one thing will be evident. Your life's atmosphere will shift. You'll start to feel lighter after carrying that burden for years. The ambiguity that previously influenced your choices will begin to clear. There will be divine clarity on who you are becoming, as well as where you are heading. Because promise isn't the only factor here. It has to do with change. To satiate your hunger, I'm not giving you what you want. You are prepared to manage it with discernment, grace, and respect. Therefore, I'm giving you what I promised. This completion includes provision. Anticipate the timely but unexpected arrival of resources, relationship, emotional and strategic in addition to financial. The things you previously lacked will now come to you because of alignment rather than as a reward. You didn't follow through on the pledge. You came after me. The promise will now come after you. Additionally, you will start to see tranquility as confirmation. Some of your decisions will be incomprehensible to others, but you'll have a profound inner serenity that doesn't require approval from others. You'll know I'm in it that way because I lead by peace rather than by coercion. Additionally, there will be assignments that are precise, timely, and unique. Before you can see them, you will sense them. You'll have to choose obedience over clarity, since you'll know what I'm asking of you. I lead in part because of that. Since I want complete faith, I don't provide detailed explanations. Therefore, when I ask you to talk, talk. Walk away when I tell you to. Don't fight when I tell you to rest. The more you comply, the more signals you will see. We now walk like this. Glory to glory, word by word, step by step. This season will be distinguished by presence as much as promise. Church won't be the only place you sense me. In the car, the hallway, and the kitchen, you'll sense me. I'm making you more sensitive. I'm getting closer in novel ways. And the best indication of all will be that proximity. That everything I said is happening and not just conceivable. Heaven picked you, but earth neglected you. Heaven is now answering. Keep an eye out for the indicators. Be prepared for the fullest and respond with faith. You have to make a deliberate decision now that the signs are starting to show up around you with unquestionable consistency, and the promises are starting to awaken, to live as you believe, not only to believe in what I'm doing. Passivity was never intended for faith. It was never intended to be an emotion that fluctuates based on what you observe. Faith is a daily alignment that is active. It's the way you choose to walk, speak, make decisions, and obey in complete accordance with what I have said when you wake up in the morning, even if you're still aware of the conflict between what I said and what's on display right now. Most people lose their footing here. They never learned how to walk with faith when it no longer feels inspiring, not because they cease believing. However, you are not called to inspire, my child. You have been called to alignment. You must alter your everyday routine if you want to live by faith during this time. You have to start each day with a purpose, starting from silence rather than jumping right into the commotion, avoiding reading the words of the world before I do. I want your spirit to open along with your eyes. I want you to go back to the simplicity of communion before the phone, before the pressure, before the lists, before the deadlines. I want you to sit with me for at least 10 minutes, with attention, not with a plan. Find out how I would like to guide you during that day. Before the world pulls you out of alignment, let me rejoin you. The little thing of starting your day with my voice will alter the course of everything else. I want you to be conscious of my presence for the rest of your day. I'm not requesting that you adopt a strict religious stance. I'm requesting awareness. I want you to stop when something makes you nervous, to check your atmosphere, not to panic. Tell me, Lord, what are your thoughts on this? And I'll talk. Bring me in when you're not sure about a choice. Ask me before you enter a door when it opens. Faith does not equate to self-confidence. It's the readiness to follow instructions even when your reasoning suggests a different course of action. You will be better able to identify me in the large things if you include me in the minor ones more. I would also like to change the way you talk. Your speech is no longer informal. You now bear a spiritual burden. And the future I'm aligning for you is either being built or delayed by doubt based on what you say aloud. So start talking like someone who thinks they were selected by heaven. For your calling, stop apologizing. Don't minimize your accomplishments. Don't repeat the voice of dread. Talk clearly. Talk with optimism. Talk with complete assurance that what I have put in you is permanent and unbreakable. Make my promises known. Even if it hasn't materialized yet, declare what I've spoken. Faith brings life to arid areas because it understands that truth influences reality, not because it feels daring. Since obedience is where faith is demonstrated, let's discuss it. You can't claim to trust me and then disregard my requests. I'm not punishing you if I tell you to let go of anything. It's too heavy to move into the following one. Do it if I ask you to speak up in a room where you've been silent or to pursue an idea. I put you in a position of obedience, not because I want results. Saying yes is the most prepared thing you will ever do. The grace to finish what I started will always accompany obedience, even though it will rarely feel convenient. Therefore, don't wait to feel qualified. You've already been selected. Simply comply. Be mindful. For too long, you've let too many voices into your inner life. Comparative voices, distraction voices, criticized voices masquerading as warnings. I want you to take back the gate now. Be deliberate about what you let in through influence, media, and conversation. Something isn't neutral if it draws you away from your task, clarity, or tranquility. Your alignment is in danger. Keep your peace. It's more than just comfort. The purpose is discernment. You must also take a break, out of obedience rather than fatigue. The absence of movement is not rest. It is the existence of confidence. It's a conscious decision to think, I'm working even when you're not. Re-establish Sabbath in your life. Unplug, stay still, think, realign. There is nothing for you to prove. It is required of you to walk in time, and rest is part of that rhythm. Lastly, I want you to start writing once more. Write down what I'm showing you, whether it's in a notebook, a voice message, or brief reflections. Put the confirmations in writing. Jot down the little wonders. Put the verses I highlight in writing. Put what I say in writing. These records will become altars when the world is calm. When your emotions falter, they will help you keep your memory in line. When you look back, you'll see that God was always speaking. You now live by faith in this manner, not from pressure but from tranquility, not with intensity but with intention. Fear, reaction, or opinion no longer govern your life. My voice is its guide, and my promises will not be postponed as long as you stay in this alignment. Now that you're not pursuing signs, they will meet you on time. You're pursuing me. I want to talk to you again about who you really are now that you're learning how to walk in alignment and you've started to go from passively surviving to actively trusting. Not the person you've attempted to be for other people, not who you felt because of your situation. When I look at you, I see the person I created, honed, and never lost sight of. Not the person your detractors called you. Because I want your identity to be decided before I guide you into the full spotlight of your upcoming season, in your soul as well as your mind, not just in declaration, but also in your actions, reactions, and self-perception when no one else is there. You have to realize that rejection no longer reflects you. The proof of redemption is you. I'm aware of how long you have endured the burden of being misinterpreted and feeling as though your best qualities were constantly ignored, misinterpreted, or overlooked. You have experienced times when you have devoted yourself fully to circumstances, people, missions, and vocations, and you got quiet in exchange. You came to see invisibility as a weakness. You started to question whether anything about you was just too much or too different. And you started editing yourself without even seeing it. You lowered your voice out of fear of offending rather than humility. You suppressed your fire because others appeared uneasy with its heat, not because it wasn't burning. Even though you didn't leave me, you began entering rooms I asked you to shift with more caution. I didn't ask you to perform, though. You never had to fit me. You were never made to be small by me. You were never told to shrink by me. I'm calling you to live today, but you did it to survive. Because I never intended for what I put inside of you to be diluted. It was intended to convey power. It was supposed to convey clarity. My voice was supposed to be heard. And I am entirely, permanently, and openly restoring your identity now that you have survived fire without losing your tenderness, that you have endured silence without becoming resentful, and that you have remained faithful when no one was looking. You're not weak. You're not running late. You are not forgotten. You cannot be replaced. You're not unsure. You are not erratic. You are complete. You've been grounded. You are well renowned. You are so very adored. You have been selected by purpose, not by default or accident. When I created your voice, your heart, your mind, and your wiring, I understood exactly what I was doing. I didn't get lost. I was not in a hurry. I wasn't doing any experiments. I made you in order to show you a side of myself that no one else can see. I now want you to walk with that understanding, not with a sense of superiority, but with confidence. I reclaim what the world attempted to rename this season, the internal narrative that has been telling you that you are insufficient unless you are producing, proving, or performing is corrected here. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to fight for a spot. To get my commitment, you don't need to replicate their behaviors. There is no negotiating what I have put on your life. It's not brittle. Additionally, it is independent of people's time. My authority has established it, and you have to start living from that reality. Your voice counts. It is anointed, not because it is noisy. Your presence is significant, because of the oil that has been pressed in quiet, not because of your resume. You have good judgment, because you have suffered, not because you have studied. You have a great deal of sympathy. It's because you've been damaged and healed, not because you've been trained. And it's all turning into power in my hands now, for impact, not for platform. You've wasted too much time expressing regret for how I shaped you, your thought process, your emotions, and the fact that you don't conform to superficial stereotypes. I termed it deeply aware, but they called it excessively sensitive. I refer to what they described as overly intense as spiritually awake. I call completely alive what they rejected as being overly sentimental. Don't compromise your expression in order to fit in. The room was never intended for you. You were supposed to change it. Allow me to reconstruct your reflection. Allow me to demonstrate what I observe when you enter a room. In the invisible world, I see someone with authority. I see someone who, simply by being there, changes the environment. I see someone who chooses love despite having scars on their body. I see someone who had the option to leave but chose to stay, who had the option to close but chose to stay open, who had the option to strike back but decided to step in. That's why I have faith in you. I'm situating you for that reason. Because of what you've overcome, I'm bringing you back to who you were before the hardship, as well as to who you are now. Therefore, don't try to prove anything when you start this new season. Simply be who I created you to be, completely, unrestrictedly, and without fear. Take the lead from the healed. Allow the restored you to speak. Let the brave rise. Let the grounded make the decision. Tolerance is not why you are here. Truth is what you're here to deliver. You're not trying to impress anyone. Your purpose is to liberate the sacred. You're not presenting yourself as someone in recovery. As someone who was recommissioned, you are taking the initiative. Let your values guide every choice you make from now on. Allow the healing you've experienced to be reflected in your standards. Allow your schedule to represent the value that you have come to realize cannot be compromised. People who only appreciated you when you were silent are no longer able to find a place in your life. Voices that are unable to identify fruit unless it is in their favored container are no longer available. You are no longer changing who you are to get by. Your entire existence is based on the truth. Earth disregarded you. Heaven, however, continued to observe. What the earth can no longer reject is about to be shaped by what heaven has witnessed. It's time to develop the spiritual habits that will support what I'm doing in and through you now that your identity has been restored and you're walking from revelation rather than rejection. Identity is a continuous process. It needs to be protected, nourished, and anchored in regular interaction with me. Intimacy, not effort, is now required to sustain what I've restored in your spirit. You will feel tired rather than brimming if you attempt to carry the upcoming season with the same patterns. Allow me to guide you toward a practical, spiritual, and rooted future. Being present must be your primary posture. At the beginning of each day, make room for me as a necessity, not as an obligation. You can no longer afford to live by response. Before you check the news, you have to live by your own rhythm. Meet with your intellect before you listen to the speech of the world. Take a seat in silence. Let your heart open. Start your day with the eternal rather than the urgent, even if it's only for 10 minutes. Say my name. Find out what I have to say today. Allow me to be the first voice to determine your heart's temperature and your mind's tone. You will be anchored by these few moments of surrender in ways that hours of effort could never provide. Prayer is not a performance. It has to do with posture. The correct wording is not necessary. You must have a genuine heart. Talk to me like you would a trusted individual. Don't simply tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me how you really feel. Bring me your bewilderment, happiness, longing, and exhaustion. You've made an effort to be powerful in prayer, but I don't find that impressive. I'm tempted to give up. Allow me to serve as your release location rather than only your request location. Allow prayer to permeate your daily life and become more than just a spiritual endeavor. Truth, not reaction, must now be the source of your mood throughout the day. You're not in the rear. You're no longer proving yourself. Allow identity to guide every choice, discussion, and action. Stroll like a person who is aware of their fragrance. Talk as though you're confident in your safety. Avoid the temptation to over-explain yourself, to doubt your value, or to provide an apology for the burden you bear. I have entrusted you with something sacred. It doesn't require ongoing verification. Consistent agreement is required. Yes, you should be humble, but don't be timid. You've mistaken humility for smallness. I'm urging you to be brave, not the boisterous type, but the grounded sort that enters the space and brings tranquility without having to do anything. Make my word your basis once more, not a last resort, not a fallback when times go tough. Make it your bread every day. You don't have to read a ton. You must read slowly. Allow one verse to influence your entire day. Give your season a voice with only one story. Let me show you what pertains to the present. Put it in writing. Think about it. Say it out loud. My word has life, but you have to allow it to influence your life. Allow it to refresh your thoughts so that you are prepared to confront lies when they reappear. If you feel that Jesus Christ has brought light and hope into your life, then come join us on this sacred journey. Subscribe to the channel and experience His love, peace, and blessings every day. In Jesus' name, amen.